Hey everyone, this is Rob Phelan from Catoctin High School. We are with Naomi Reis of Piece of Cake down in Frederick, Maryland. Naomi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. So Naomi, tell us a little bit about Piece of Cake. What is it?
So we are a custom cake company, and 75% of the business is custom ordering specialty cakes, weddings, birthdays. We also carry pastry our, in our retail area, coffee, and then we sell our products to other companies in addition to the public.
Awesome. So I have a couple of questions I want to ask you. Our audience is pretty much high school seniors who are just starting out on their own businesses. They're going through a course at the moment where they're learning a lot about entrepreneurship and different ways of thinking about starting a business. So how did you get started? Like what made you kind of say, I'm going to start a bakery?
Well, at that age, actually, in high school, I really always wanted to own my own company. And back then, it was an ice cream shop. I love ice cream. It's very family oriented, and I had always wanted to pursue that. Well, in college, I ended up working at a bagel shop and got into pastries there and then the baking side of the industry. And I decided to go to college. And while I was in college, went forward with doing cakes on the side for friends, kind of seeing what that industry was like. I interned with someone. So I would say since high school, I determined that I wanted to be my own boss one day.
Awesome. So what did you end up studying in high school or in college? I'm sorry.
In college, I went to the local community college here, Frederick, for business management. That's when I started I interned at the bagel shop, and then I started working there after I interned there. And during that time, I finished FCC and went to pastry school in Arnold, Maryland, which is outside of Baltimore. And that was a culinary school, and but with a focus on baking and pastry.
Awesome. Is that something you need to do to be able to open your own bakery, or would you say you probably wouldn't have to do it, or is it a good idea? Like just trying to get an idea of what qualifications or things you should do if you were ever considering opening a bakery yourself.
Yes, I would say I do believe in any form of schooling as well as hands-on learning. So I think they coincide. In school, we learned a lot about the science of baking, and the science of baking is necessary to troubleshoot if there's an issue with a recipe. We can say, oh, well, egg, for example, makes products fluffier. If something is too dense, potentially we could add egg to it. Or if something is too dry, we can add milk to it. So learning what each ingredient does was very necessary to creating my own recipes or altering a recipe or troubleshooting if something went wrong. And that constant tweak and improvement is what any business needs to thrive and adapt and succeed. So, as well as working with other people, learning different ways to do things rather than just self-learning. Self-learning is great too, to have that ambition, but to see how other people do things is helpful as well.
Very cool. So you said you worked in the bagel shop. Was that your first business?
That was no, I started working when I was 14 years old at Chick-fil-A, and I worked there until college, and that's when I started working at the bagel shop.
Okay. But like the first time you set off on your own was to start a piece of cake, or was there anything else before that?
I worked at the bagel shop after pastry school. Well, during pastry school, I went back to Chick-fil-A and worked there.
Hmm.
And I was a trainer and store manager. So I did not stay at that location in Frederick. I went to different Chick-fil-A's in the entire region and opened new Chick-fil-A's. So I traveled and I was a trainer for them.
Okay, cool. So we get to the point where you finish college, you've got your qualification, and you're thinking, okay, now I want to start my own shop, my own store. What were the steps to doing that?
One thing was finding out from the state what I needed to do legally to incorporate it as a company. There are Each industry is different with
Mhm.
what the requirements are. Mine personally was the health department, and I'm in city limits. So the city of Frederick has requirements for owning a retail center or restaurant, as well as incorporating it as a business. There are a few options. There are corporations, sole proprietorships, limited liability corporations, and it could be alone, it could be with somebody. So the first thing to do would be to learn what the different corporations are, pick one suited for that industry. Mine is an LLC, it's a limited liability company, and to incorporate with that with the state. And then it is typically best to talk to a lawyer to make sure that all of the legal requirements are being met. And since I sell to the public, I also had to get a resale certificate saying that, letting the state know I do sell to the public, and any taxes that I collect then get passed on to the state. So there are certain legal requirements, as well as for myself, the health department.
Okay. And your shop is located in Whittier, just outside of the kind of the Frederick area, but still in the city limits. How did you decide on that location?
So my clientele is I mainly do online ordering, and one thing to look at is who is your clientele as a business. So, will you be reliant on foot traffic? Do you want your customers to walk by, see your location, and stop in, or will they see your business online, or how basically where are your customers going to come from? So mine were not necessarily reliant on somebody walking down the street and saying, "Oh, there's a cake shop. I'm going to come in and get a cake." Most of our clientele are brides or people looking for specialty cakes, and I would say large events, bar mitzvahs, even small events as well. So my location is not necessarily in a high foot traffic area. It's low foot traffic because foot traffic areas are more expensive, and I personally didn't need that, but another company might actually need that. And then, what was your other question?
No, that was it. That was it. Like, why did you decide to place yourself where you did? So you're saying
Oh,
that the foot traffic part wasn't important. You still needed a shop front, I'm guessing, just so that people could come in and try cakes out, or
yes,
could come in and
absolutely.
shop.
Yes, and then for myself, this specific location was available. It had met all of the health department requirements already. So I did not have to do a build out in this location. It was ready to move in. And it took me, I believe, 2 months to get up and running versus if I found a location that I needed to, for example, like floor drains. The kitchen needs a certain type of wall that's like cleanable and non-porous, and sinks have to be within 20 feet of prep stations. So this particular facility has met all of the requirements versus if I did a build out, it would have taken at least 6 months to get up and running. So this was a very quick turnaround for me. I was able to get in and get running as fast as possible.
Okay. So next question is like about the products you offer. You said that you do specialty cakes for weddings. I think you do birthdays as well. And then I know from walking in there myself that you guys have like cupcakes, brownies, different types of cakes. You also offer special dietary ones. So I know there's gluten free, there's vegan, and so on. Like, how did you decide what products to offer?
Trial and error. We had our product just like the industry standards, like chocolate cake, vanilla cake, red velvet cake, certain items that everyone loves, everyone knows people love them. So we started with those products 10 years ago, and we have adapted with the needs. So we did, chocolate chip cookies, apple turnover, cinnamon rolls, and we sold at farmers markets when we started the company. And then gluten-free became an issue, and that did not go away. That just progressed and progressed and progressed. And we said, oh, we need to figure out how do we adapt our company to fit the needs of the public. And we decided we have to get some good gluten-free recipes. So that was trial and error. We started creating our own products in that realm, mixing our own flour blends, and we would try them at the farmers markets and see what did people like, what did people not like. Feedback is very necessary from customers on we might think something's a good idea, or it might come out well and it doesn't go quite as planned, or customers see it a different way. As much as we want to do it, another issue would be efficiency. Like, can we do this product efficiently that we can keep it in a certain price point where customers buy it? Certain things, we can do, but it would take so long, the price would be so high that I don't think anyone would really go for that. So trial and error. People like new products. Like lately, vegan has been very trendy. So we've been upping our vegan items and saying, okay, well, we do a vegan chocolate cake. What else can we do vegan? And same thing, putting it out there, see what works, see what doesn't work. And the more feedback we get, or we'll know, like, oh, these people love these mango chocolate brownies last time we did them, maybe we'll do like a mango and coconut, or basically everything we learn along the way will get put into what we do in the future.
Okay, cool. And I know you guys also offer ice cream in there. So you got your ice cream shop eventually. So how does that work? Because you're basically reselling somebody else's product, right? Like you're not making the ice cream yourselves, right?
Exactly. So all of the baking we do in-house from scratch, and everything is our recipes and our product. Certain items like the ice cream we buy from it's from South Mountain Creamery, and they give it to us at what's called a wholesale price, which is less than what they sell to a direct customer for. Which is, its rule of thumb is 30 to 40% less than the industry standard. So we will buy, let's say, a 3-gallon tub of ice cream for $40 when it is actually, to the consumer would be maybe $60. And then we mark it up to our customers that way.
Okay, cool. And then do they have like any requirements with like how much you need to sell, or is there any kind of stipulations put on selling a product for somebody else like that?
So they're all different, and it's based on each company. So that particular company has a $500 minimum order for delivery. Some of them you can go pick up the product to resell with no minimum. It really varies. So one would have to check with that company and see like what their rules are on the product and go from there with it.
Okay. With your pricing, you mentioned already that you wanted to make sure something was cost effective, was worth making, that people would be willing to pay for it if you produced it. How do you determine your prices? Because this is usually like one of the things that most new business owners and entrepreneurs struggle with. Like, how do I set a price on what I've made that is fair, that is profitable, and people will actually buy it?
So for us personally, we have our recipes and a spreadsheet of what each recipe is costing us. So we have, I get all of my ingredients from a company called Georgia Roll, and they're a bakery supplier in Hanover, Maryland. And I'll take, a 50-pound bag of flour costs X amount. And then we divide that into ounces and apply the price per ounce to the recipe. So we'll do that, let's say a vanilla cake, flour, milk, sugar, egg, baking powder, canola oil is what we use. So we do that for every single ingredient, and then have the yield, which is like, okay, we'll take the batch, and let's say we got 10 cakes out of batch, divided by 10. There's our ingredient cost per cake. then we have to take into account how many hours of labor did it take for that cake to come into play. Not only the cake, but the filling, how to make the filling, how much time to make the buttercream that goes on the outside of the cake, and then how much time to assemble the cake, as well as the board that the cake goes on and the box that the cake goes in. Then we have to take into account our square footage of the restaurant and our utilities. So the water, the electric, the gas, and we divide that into our working hours and then take that number and divide it by how long it takes to make this cake. So there are so many factors that go into that. And then what is a fair price? Then you also have to look at the industry standard again and say, well, you know, we don't necessarily compete with Walmart, but Walmart will sell a quarter sheet cake for X amount of dollars. And then, you know, maybe down towards DC, they'll sell, custom shop will sell that same size quarter sheet cake for, you know, 5 times more. So the clientele in the area, the demographics, how much general money is in the area comes into play with pricing it. And typically an item can be marked up anywhere from 50% to 200% is considered a fair price. However, certain things you can go ahead and mark up 200% and people are more than willing to pay for that. Some items you can mark up 50% and people are barely willing to pay for that. And it really, demographics has a lot to do with that, and general wealth in the area of the clients.
Okay. And when you do something like a wedding cake, do you feel like a wedding cake is a situation where you can charge more for it because it is such a specialized type of cake? Like, you are trying to produce somebody's dream cake in this case, so it's going to take more hours, more labor. Like, it may have the same materials going into it as a regular cake, but because there's so much more labor of love put into this, I can charge more for this particular cake.
Yes, and also more skill involved too. It takes typically years of practice to be able to execute a wedding cake precisely so that it looks, so that it looks good. So yes, the different skill levels comes into play. So let's say, a highly skilled decorator might charge $100 an hour because they're that good and that precise, and not everybody can do that. Versus, like a birthday cake, they might want to get paid $25 an hour because it's pretty simple and it's something they can execute without, maybe it'll take 2 months to learn how to do it versus a few years to learn how to do that. So yes, the quality of the product, the skill level that it takes to make the product definitely come into play.
Okay. So let's talk about the real life challenges facing most businesses out there today. What are you doing now that we are all kind of homebound? I'm sure the amount of traffic has been dying down. Weddings are getting canceled. Like, how does a small business like yours deal with that?
Yes, and like I mentioned before, adaptation is so key for survival for a small business. We have to reevaluate, revamp, and redo our business model. So now moving forward, which we're still in transition, it's not something you might be able to come up with immediately, but as quickly as possible is necessary. So starting next week, we will be offering free delivery 1 day a week to people in the immediate zip codes, and their order has to be in by like 10 a.m. the day before. And this can work out if we have enough customers who take advantage of that, and we're doing multiple deliveries at a time versus going out and doing one delivery really wouldn't be worth it for us. So we really need to get word out that, okay, we are willing to deliver to you. It does have to be in this time frame that we know we can execute it by efficiently, and try to offer services to people where the need is. Another thing that has changed for us is, um, so yes, our weddings are non-existent right now. They have all postponed, thankfully not canceled. And the 75% of our business that are parties, general parties, is now probably 10 or 15%. So quite a dramatic difference. And our wholesale sales are skyrocketing. So all the companies that we're selling to have, their business is exceeding anything they would have imagined. So those sales are now going up, and we're mass producing breads and like coffee cakes and sweetbreads, like pizza crusts, other bakery items that grocery stores can't keep up with. And the companies we wholesale to are delivering these items to the general population. So thankfully for us, we have something to sustain us right now until we figure out how can we reach the general public again. What are their needs? How can we efficiently get them what they need, and keep their business? So that with the dietary needs is still a big one now too, because these people are not finding dietary needs at a lot of places, and we want it to benefit them, not just our company. We
Mhm.
as a company, you do want to look out for yourself, but you also want to know, like, how can we help these people who are in need around us? What can we do to them? Can we get the price lower actually in this time, to where like we're still paying our bills, but we're helping these people who are laid off and aren't able to pay for what they need to pay for. So it's not only about like how much can the company make, it's about surviving, but also helping other people. So for us, our sales did go down. We have closed our storefront. We're only doing pre-ordered pickups. Next week we'll start attempting to do delivery, and then selling to the other companies that sell our product.
Okay, awesome. I mean, it's great to see that you're doing that pivot. And I think the key theme that we've heard in our course, as well as what you're saying, is that you're trying to constantly provide value for people, because I guess you could make the argument that cakes were almost a luxury item, in terms of a person's budget. But now you're saying, okay, well, how do I provide it in such a way that they still can afford to do it, or what do people need? So I know you said you were increasing the amount of bread you were making, and bread would kind of probably come under more of a need than a want.
Yes.
So yeah, really cool to hear that. So
Yeah.
the last question I had for you is there a problem that you are trying to solve that you haven't figured out a solution for yet, that maybe we as a class can try and come up with solutions for? So I want to challenge my students to think about the problem you have and try and propose what solutions to it could look like.
Yes. I think the biggest problem we have right now is getting the word out. Like, what is an efficient way to get the word out to people that we have this product, we're able to sell it to bring it to you. We have tried a little bit of social media, and so far that hasn't worked too much in getting the word out. So I think my biggest problem right now um, is reaching people in the area, as even our immediate area, because of the low foot traffic that I mentioned earlier. We get people stopping in all the time saying, "Oh, I didn't know you were here, and I've lived around the corner for 5 years," So I would love some help with marketing, and what avenues work, what avenues don't work, and what does the customer look for.
Awesome. So yeah, that is going to be your challenge, guys. You need to try and come up with a way that Piece of Cake could increase their reach to the local community. Obviously, we're still not trying to blow a budget on this, so it's trying to do it in the most cost-effective way. So the amount you spend on advertising should come back at a higher rate with sales. So you don't want to spend more on advertising than you would get back in sales. You're trying to think about that as well. All right, Naomi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it also.
Yeah, you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.